Welcome to Flipping Miami, a podcast for those who want to learn real estate investing, do more, and make more. Now, here is your host, Raul Bolufe.
Wow, that's so interesting. It's like you hit rock bottom, but you almost like didn't want to hit rock bottom, right? Like you were trying your best.
Don't want to, no.
You're like, no, I'm sorry. What I meant is like your coach, your mentor didn't want you. He's like, he knew you had more in there.
Right.
So what's like the biggest lesson you've learned? Or what's the biggest lesson that's taking you the longest to learn when it comes to your sales journey?
I think the most impactful overarching lesson is that selling is not about pushing and pressuring and always closing. It's about doing the exact opposite, right? It's instead of applying pressure, the best salespeople on earth relieve pressure and get very comfortable with the fact of, hey, listen, I don't care if I get this deal or not. In fact, I'm going to go the opposite way, and I'm going to try to find reasons why it doesn't make sense to work together. That's very hard to learn and unlearn because 90% of sales books out there and coaches out there and people on the internet are all like, just more, never say die. And, but the data, the facts is that leads to less sales. I was thinking about doing a content video today for some of our marketing, which had to do with that, which is a lot of people listen to these sales trainers or read books or just subscribe to this philosophy that high pressure, never say no is the way to go. And I get it because you see some people and they're successful and you go, hey, if they're selling and they're telling me to do this, that must be right. But here's the truth of the matter. Even when I didn't know how to sell, even when I work with some salespeople who are the worst salespeople on the earth doing everything wrong, they fall ass backwards into sales, right? And when they get those sales, it doesn't mean, well, I guess that's justification that everything they were doing was right. Maybe they do know what they're doing.
Right.
Anyone can sell. And even when I was new into sales and I was probably the worst salesperson I have ever known. I was terrible at it. I still sold a lot because I got my activity levels so high that even though my closing percentage was just horrible, I worked so hard that I got a lot of deals. Now, in that position, I should not have been teaching anyone how to sell because I would have been teaching them all the wrong stuff. So I think you see these successful people, you see that they're doing deals, and you say, I'm going to emulate them. But so it's a really hard lesson to unlearn that, hey, just because they're doing deals doesn't mean they're doing it the right way. Doesn't mean that that's the best way. So that it's hard to learn and unlearn that you relieve pressure, you take pressure off, you give people permission to say no. That's what makes the best salespeople out there. That's the best attitude to have.
I love that. Yeah. So I remember when I first started listening to your stuff and I got your course, I'm like, I think it was like the third video at the time was like, get them to say no or something. Like, what's he talking about? Like, who is this guy, And when you think of it like in a psychology perspective, which you go over it a lot in your videos, it makes perfect sense. And I don't know if there's a way to convince, I guess we're not trying to convince anybody, but I don't know if there's a way to make people understand that pushing is not always the best way, kind of like you're mentioning it. It's just so engraved.
I think when we train, like I said, that's a hard lesson to learn. So the best way we've learned to teach it was by not thinking about I'm a salesperson and this is how the person I'm trying to sell to is going to react. Is we always start our lessons now with what do you do in a specific situation? So, for example, the pushing, it's, hey, listen, if you are you dealing with a car salesman and they're like, I've got your keys for the appraisal. I'm not giving them back until you say yes. I don't care if we're staying here all night. You're getting into this car. Like, what are you feeling? And then people are like, well, I'm pissed. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to find a way to get out of there. I'm either going to, just say, I can't make a decision. I'm going to give an excuse. I have no money, or I'm going to get really upset and I'm going to fight like crazy. And I'll never do business with them. And once you take people through and they self-examine, they go, oh yeah, every time I'm pressured, I either fight or I flee. A sale never happens. And if I do like really get pressured into a sale, it's instant buyer's remorse. And I go back and I tell all my friends the experience sucks and I get my money. Once people self-examine what they do in those situations over and over, they always come up with the same conclusion that, oh yeah. And then, well, tell me about what you did, a good experience you had. Well, they didn't care if they got the deal or not, but they answered all my questions. They guided me the right way. I truly felt like they were on my side. They asked me a couple of tough questions to really get me think about what I needed. And that was a good, so the way we train, and I recommend any trainers train this way, we call it the inside out methodology, is we get people to realize what they do, how they think, how they feel, how they react in certain scenarios. And once you understand yourself, you understand every other human being that you could ever potentially sell to.
So you make them understand what their potential client or their potential seller, et cetera, would feel. And you almost like role play reverse.
Yeah.
And you don't role play words, you more role play like their feelings. Like, oh,
yeah.
imagine.
And what do you do?
Yeah, like imagine I tell you, hey, I'm not leaving your house until you sign this offer. What are you feeling and what are you doing right now? And then they'll be like, well, I wouldn't want to sign it, or et cetera.
Yeah, or even real life situations, right? Because we teach, at the end of a sales call, there's no such thing as maybes or thinking overs. There's only yeses and nos. And if you want to relieve pressure, you're always going for that no. So like the way we explain that is like, the old marriage proposal where a woman's with the guy for like 6 years and then she says, hey, you know what? If it's not happening by now, we probably need to call it off, right? That's going for the no. What does that force the guy do? It forces the guy to go, all right, I've known it's time to do this, so I'm finally going to pull the trigger, or I'm finally going to think about it and either decide yes or decide no. Same thing in sales. So like we go over that scenario, we go, here's how you do it in a sales scenario. Hey, listen, Mr. Home Seller, after everything we've talked about, all the time we spent together, all the areas we've explored as far as, why you might sell your property to anyone and what might hold you back. And after I laid out what we could do for you, if you're still unsure at this point, that probably means that we shouldn't work together, that it doesn't make sense, right? So we take everyday scenarios and then apply it to sales as well. Because the exact same thing happens in a sales scenario. They either go, okay, it's time, I'm going to do this, or they're finally forced to make a decision and think, it is a no, let's break up, or it's almost a yes, I just have to figure these things out. Let's figure these things out together and then we can get there. So I think don't look at prospects as like this. With sales training, I see this too much. It's like, hey, we're the big bad salespeople. And then there's these prospects who are these weird, not even human people. They're prospects who do these weird things, lie to us, mislead us. It's no, man. It's we're human, they're humans. We react to things the same way.
Buyers are liars.
Yeah, buyers are liars. That's the wrong attitude. They're human beings. They do exactly what we do and respond to situations exactly like we do. So my biggest, advice for any salesperson is think about how you react, how you feel in what you do in certain situations. And if you think about that, you're going to understand everybody you're ever selling to ever going forward.
Yeah, no, that's so key. That's so key. And when I went to your event was in Dallas, I think it was like a year ago almost, or whatever, about a year ago.
Okay.
I remember one of the key takeaways I got was, going negative and kind of like pulling back in order to get the real authentic self. Because when you pull back, it's not even a manipulative way. You're just pulling back to relieve the pressure so that then they can feel comfortable telling you what it really is. Because once it's a no, I think you said it there. You're like, one of the things you like to say is, if we couldn't get good on an offer, if we couldn't make it work, like, okay, look, now that that's over, was I even close? Like, yeah. It's so genius because now that that's over, technically it is over, right? You wanted 100, they want 150. All right, it's over. We're not going to buy it. We're like, we're even in the ballpark, and then they'll be like, well, look, blah, blah, blah. And
because once the sales pressure is removed, it's like, all right, now we can get real with each other. Yeah. There was no way I was going for 100. If you got to 120, it probably would have been close. You might have got me. Like, truth comes out. And
Yep.
the secret to sales is having this open, honest communication about, can we help each other or not?
Yeah.
And when you're adversaries, you're both hiding your cards, right? You're holding them close to your chest. Nobody's letting anything out. So like you said, man, the best salespeople in the world relieve pressure so people can go, oh, okay, here's the deal, man. Here's where we're at. And once you have that conversation, you can usually get a lot further.
Yeah. And John, I'm curious, how did you get into the wholesale world?
Yeah, by accident. I was, like a lot of things happen in life by accident. I was training a call center, and the call center produced leads and sold them to realtors and investors. And so I rewrote their scripts. I did a day of training with the sales floor. And one of the reps, I don't know who it was, but they called an investor. And the investor was like, you guys call me all the time. It's always the same pitch. Something's different. I like it. I'm buying, but you also have to tell me what happened there. And they said, we're working with this new guy, and he's training us. So he said, connect me with him. So his name was Will Danker out in Houston, Texas. And Will called me up and said, dude, I don't know, I like what you do. Come work with my team. And I did, and we had a lot of success. I had no idea this real estate wholesaling thing even was a thing. But he was a high-level player, so he introduced me to others. And within about 6 months, I shut down all the other industries we were working with and just focused 100% on real estate. And we've been 100% real estate since.
Oh, really? So you're not really training other different companies or anything like that?
No. I mean, we've dipped our toe back in the water. And tried some different models to get into other industries. I don't want to train in other industries myself. I so love this industry, and I found what I'm passionate about. Other industries I've trained in wasn't a lot of passion. So just because the people I work with, they're entrepreneurs, they're go-getters, it's a good feel. I like it. So, but no, I've had trainers go into other industries. We've licensed some content in other industries and that stuff. We will get into other industries, not me personally, but my company and my content. But I've stayed 100% real estate wholesaling. I
love that. I remember when we first spoke, I don't know if you remember now, this was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. We were introduced by Alex Pardo. Yeah. And at that time, you were still going and doing like in-office, in-appointment visits. That was maybe like 4 years ago, I imagine, right?
Yeah. So like I said, everything changes, right? Our model has changed considerably. It's just, you're always growing and changing. And the second you stop growing and changing, you're like, this is the way it is. This is what we do. We're never changing. That's when you start dying. Again, another cliche, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. But like those cliches are around because they're true. Yeah.
And so what does your business look like today? So I know you do, you have some events, or like, how does it work?
Yeah, so we have an online training that goes year round. Never stops. It's evergreen. We go through a bunch of different lessons, and we go through those lessons again. So we cover the content 4 times a year, and then we do 2 to 3 events a year. That's really it. The rest of the business is automated at this point, from the marketing to the sales. And my personal involvement in the business is I do those 2 to 3 2-day events a year. I do an hour-long sales training call a week, and I look at the material and kind of tweak it for about an hour a week.
Nice. Very cool. Nice, dude. So yeah, you've come a long way from forging signatures to That's so awesome. When's your next event, by the way?
Next event is September. It's a Monday, Tuesday. I don't have my calendar in front of me. It's 17th, 18th, somewhere in there. It's a Monday, Tuesday. So around those days in Denver, Colorado.
Love it. Maybe later on we'll put the link if someone's interested. Cool. What are some of like the books or podcasts that you're listening to or reading right now today that can help you?
So I'd say, first of all, the most impactful book I've ever read has been Screw It, Let's Do It by Richard Branson, which just goes into his mindset when he makes a decision to take action and move forward, lessons learned along the way. It's obviously not real estate specific, but it goes into the mindset you have to have, and helped me personally push through a lot of barriers where otherwise I was overanalyzing and not taking action, and just adopt his philosophy. And, I'd get to a certain point and go, I don't know what's going to happen, but screw it, let's do it, and push forward. That's the most impactful book. Other than that, man, I've read a ton. I'm not reading any right now. I'm not doing podcasts or books right now. I love them. I've done tons of podcasts, hundreds of books, but right now I'm really into the technical side of things, because that was the weakest part of my knowledge base up until this last year, was the digital side of business. So I've been taking trainings from, I worked alongside Frank Kern for a little while. Jason Hornum is a digital marketer I've been following, taking his courses. So I've just been doing a lot of investment into my education for where I felt I needed education, which is the digital aspect of business today and the digital marketing and that type of stuff. So that's where I'm spending my time is learning there.
Yeah, more of like the automation and things like that. That's important, I guess. Yeah, I mean, reading books and all that's awesome, but it comes at a time that you have to start doing and like practicing like what you preach and stuff. And there's some skill sets you can't get in like these big level books, these high level books. Right. It's more like on a mindset stuff. Yeah. And that's good. I feel you on that. Since the podcast and stuff, I had to learn like how do you upload these things and then how do you optimize them. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. Like what? Like, no one.
Yeah, there's like the mindset piece, which podcasts are really good for. Yep. And then there's the implementation piece, and you need them both, right? You have the best mindset in the world, but if you don't do anything, you don't know what to do next, then you're not going to get anywhere. And at the same time, you can know all the technical pieces and what to do, but if you've got a poor mindset, you're just not going to push forward. So I think you need them both. I think podcasts and books are great for mindset, and then more technical types of trainings are great for implementation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you have any like role models that you kind of looked up to or look up to even to this day that kind of helped you propel forward?
Yeah, and the cool thing about role models is now you can get role models from podcasts and books, and nobody's limited to who their role model can be. So obviously Richard Branson, who I've never met, probably will never meet in my life. But the way he speaks about business, builds business, his core values just really speak to me. So huge inspiration there. Let's see who else there is. Really anyone who just, I've had some of the mastermind groups I'm in. I've met probably 10, 20 people who've had a huge impact on me. I can't name them all, and I don't want to, because if I miss some people out, I'm going to feel bad about doing it. No one that really probably anybody knows, no big names, no big educators, but there's been a lot of people who don't have a lot going for them. Maybe not the best education, not a lot of resources, not everything stacked against them, but have the mindset of pushing forward. And they inspire me because I have a tendency to sometimes give up too early. So I like to watch those people, watch them figure stuff out and push through tough situations, because it gives me the inspiration for the times I want to give up to keep going. Just everyday average Joes, really. But those they've got those things that I really admire about them.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think role models are key. Like, it's almost there's only very, 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 very few people in the world that can make a huge impact completely on their own thoughts and beliefs. You got the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, Warren Buffett's, and et cetera. But and that's awesome. But for most people, like, it's okay to see someone do well and emulate some of their traits and characteristics, to then just kind of follow the path that's been drawn out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people let ego get in the way or whatever, but it's just like, it's not, once you kind of like accept that, like, okay, let me just follow like what John Martinez does in wholesale sales, and I'll just do exactly what he says and take your ego out of it. Life becomes a little easier,
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who've already done what we all want to do. And if you choose the right person to follow, you can really, it's a big shortcut. You get ahead of the game real quick. Love
that. So the last few questions here before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
What I like to ask this question. It gets like the brain turning a little bit. What do you feel is the next $100 million play in real estate?
Yeah, 100 million. I don't know if it's $100 million play, but I'll tell you, I've seen in all other industries. I told you I've been doing I've spent the last 2 years really focusing on marketing and how our sales philosophy fits into the marketing mindset and that type of stuff. And I think in real estate investment specifically, there's going to be a huge shift from direct marketing, pushing, going out and grabbing people via mail and cold calling and that type of stuff. I think there's going to be a reversal where we're not plucking people out and aggressively targeting them, but we have such a good message that we are attracting people to want to do business with the brand and relate to us. So I think it's going to go from outbound marketing to more content or inbound marketing. I see that being the shift, because if you just think about it, last 2 years I owned a call center. We had a huge push we had a huge push in cold calling. What's happening? Well, the telecom providers are now, if you look at your cell phone, what's it say? Like potential spam, blah, blah, blah. People are getting upset. They don't like that. No one's reading emails anymore. They're blocking you, unsubscribing. There's rules and laws popping up around the world for that stuff too. So the world is changing from where we can market outbound aggressively to where we have to find a way to be so attractive that people seek us out. And I think the companies that master that are going to just leapfrog everyone, leave them in the dust.
Interesting. That's not the answer that I thought of. I wasn't thinking anything about it. It's not the answer. That's a really good way to think about it. It's kind of like sales. Yeah. It's like the evolution of sales, right? When no one didn't really know anything, you imagine, okay, if I ask them 10 times, they might say yes. And now as the evolution progresses, we learn a little bit more about human psychology and the way people react, etc. It's like, maybe if you push back, and it's probably the same in marketing.
If we just look at the last 5 years of marketing alone, since I got into the industry, I've seen direct mail drop from about almost a 2% response rate to now a 0.5% response rate is good. Cold calling is going down the tube. Still works, but it's getting harder. There's more people who are getting sued. It's becoming less effective. Text message marketing blew up very easy. Everybody's getting upset. Now there's litigation around that. That's going down. So, either those things will become less effective because either there's so many people doing it, it's no longer effective, or you'll get tossed out because you'll just get sued eventually if you never stop, and you'll be out that way. So those things are going away, like whether we like it or not. Cold calling, direct mail, like that direct type of stuff will not continue to be as effective as it has been. And we've seen this because we've watched that PPC is 2, 3, 4 times what it was last year, right? To get a PPC lead. So if you just read the tea leaves, you see the writing on the wall, that stuff's becoming less effective. And at some point, it becomes more expensive to produce a lead that way than the revenue you produce on the back end. And if you let your business get to that point, you no longer have a business. If you can't get a lead and convert it for less than what you make on the back end, you no longer have a business. You're losing money. So I see it. I think a lot of people refuse to see it because it means there has to be a complete shift, and that's scary.
What's the skill set that someone should develop to once this shift starts happening, that you can remain in business and thrive? Like what's kind of skill set? Is it like content writing? Is it
specific skill set? Yeah, it's delivering empathetic content, and what I mean by that is delivering content that's obviously useful. All content has to be useful, right? I'm going to give you something, you can use it somehow. But empathetic meaning I understand your situation, right? So there has to be 2 pieces to content. One is the empathy piece that says this guy or this woman or this company gets it. So I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna trust. And then the actual value piece, which is, and they know what they're talking about, they're experts. This helps out whether I do business with them or not. So people who master content, I'd say just to sum it up, content marketing will win. And I don't think it's more than a couple of years out that shift actually occurs.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good thing. Yeah. That's awesome to know. Mind blowing. Love it.
I could be wrong. I don't know, but I'm guessing. Yeah. I'm guessing.
But that makes sense. So What is your, so I'd like to end the show with like a really tactical step for someone who wants to get their first deal. What would be like, your step-by-step action plan for, July 2019 of how to get the first deal? Let's assume they have anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to spend to get their first deal. What would be like the steps you would take?
Yeah, that's pretty easy, man. In the beginning like that, it's not about finessing it. It's about grinding it out. Yeah. So just like if I look at my career in sales, I stunk at sales. I didn't have any skill sets to begin with, but I took more action than anyone. Okay. So it's just action. It's going to be calling everyone, telling everyone, who you are and what you do, door knocking, whatever it takes, right? And you will, even if you suck and you have no skills whatsoever, you will, if you have enough activity, you will fall into a deal. So it's all like, I think in the beginning, it's activity based. It's, hey, if you just talk to, you can't lose. If you talk to 100 people a day, you're going to get into the situation where someone just says like, yeah, I'll sell my house to you for anything. Yeah. I've been dying to get rid of it. You're the first person I've talked to. Let's do this. You're going to find that person. Yeah. I don't think you really have to worry about getting very technical until you get those first few deals and you have some money. And then once you have more money than you do time, you go, okay, now how can I get better using the money I have? Can I have more targeted marketing? Can I bring a person to help out with some tasks on my team to free me up to do higher value activities? But I think it starts with action, just massive amounts of activity. And after the money starts coming in, once you start having more money than you do time, that's when you start making that other shift. Interesting. I like that. So yeah, basically to get the first deal, just put in the high effort. Choose a marketing channel. Let's call it cold calling, door knocking, driving, whatever your action is, put a super high effort, especially if you don't have a ton of money for marketing. And, eventually those results will come in. Yeah. Like I'm in a bunch of masterminds with some of the highest level people in the country. And a lot of them started with literally $0. Like every infomercial you've ever seen, right? Like I had $0 and yeah, that's how that's legit. Many of them started that way with $0. So you don't have to have 5 or 10K to blow on marketing. You do later on once you start growing and scaling up. But to begin with, you got everything you need, right? You're alive, you're breathing, and you got a voice. Even if you don't have a cell phone, even if you don't have a list, you can walk a freaking neighborhood and find a deal. Gonna take some time, gonna talk to a lot of people, but that's all you need. You literally don't need anything else. Yeah. So you don't need a $1 million loan from your rich dad to help. Right. No, I don't think you do. That's awesome, man. But John, man, this has been an awesome episode. This is probably like one of the best episodes, content rich with almost like legit tactical things for what's to come. And, it's coming from an expert. So I think this was a really, really awesome. I have fun, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah. So guys, where can they follow you, John, if they want to kind of? Our company is Midwest Revenue Group. So the domain is MidwestRev, RAV is in revenue.com. Okay. MidwestRev.com. And then you can follow John. Do you have Instagram or any of that stuff? I do. I don't know how to get into it. I'll be honest. I think we got followers and stuff. I've never been able to get onto it, but no, Facebook, LinkedIn. We've got a YouTube channel by the same name, Midwest Revenue. That's right. So probably 100, 150 videos on there with lots of training stuff that's free and out there for the public. Love it. Awesome, guys. So I appreciate you guys watching this. If you like what you heard and interested in hearing more, you can click subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the bell and all that. But anyways, thanks again, John. It was awesome to have you. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.